What's going on, YouTube? Happy Monday to everybody. Hope you guys all had a great weekend. RDAP Dan here. Federal prison time. Give you all a few minutes to join us and jump in the room. Today flew by. I cannot believe it is already 5:30. I definitely need like 3 more hours added to every day. If you're new in the room, go ahead and type in the number 1 in the room and let me know we have some new people in the room, and we'll definitely give you a nice warm welcome. And we should have Jenny with us, joining us tonight. What's going on, Merrick? How are you doing, bud? We know Merrick's not new to the room. Mr. Merrick, not Merrick. Not Mr. Merrick, Mr. Merrick. So today we're going to be talking a little bit about prison preparation, on some of the importance and what goes into that. Been getting a lot of calls and emails lately about, we get a lot of calls and emails about everything all the time, but this one seems to never die down. This seems to be a very active question. So we're going to talk about it a little bit. The name is Rick. Mr. Merrick has a name. What's going on, Audio? Sound Labs? Jenny's in the room. So Audio, do you have like a audio company? What is the Sound Labs? Are you just into audio, or because if you are, maybe you can give me some pointers on a new microphone. A couple more minutes here and we'll get jumping on this, about this topic. There's a lot of crazy people in the world, and I'm finding that more and more lately with a lot of the inquiries we've been getting, and not necessarily inquiries of like, we need your services, inquiries of other people that want to offer their services through our platform to a lot of you. And man, we're vetting these people because I think there's some crazy people out there that want to take advantage. So we're trying to catch them. Hey, George Gomez, what's going on, my man? 10 people in the room. It looks like everybody's back on track. You guys all enjoying your holiday? Federal holiday? Federal holiday. Come on. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit today about preparation for prison. And this, most of you should already know this. And thing is you know what's crazy is I'll get a phone call. Is this RDAP Dan? Yeah, this is RDAP Dan. Oh, great. I've been watching your videos and I love them. Great information in there. It's really helped me with this process. It's like, awesome. And then they start to tell me, well, I think I need your help. And what can you do to help us? So we start going through it. And as soon as we start talking about the letters, I always get the same comment from a lot of people, the same comment from a lot of different people, where they'll start to say, well, I've already done the letters. I've already got the letters taken care of. And I'm like, oh, well, how did you do your letters? Well, my attorney gave me some information and we've got great letters. I'm like, well, I'm happy. I'm happy you think you got great letters, but what makes them great? Most of the time, I can't really get a straight answer back. It's very, well, they're from the heart, but it's not giving me any explanation. And I'll ask how many letters you guys have submitted. And a lot of the times I'll hear the number like, well, we've got 20 or 30 character reference letters. I'm like, 20 or 30 character reference letters. You tell me you've been watching my videos for a long time, but yet you did 30, 20, 15, 40, 50, 100, whatever it is, character reference letters. I'm telling you guys, pay attention to this video, because if you are one of the many out there that is going to be facing possible federal prison, and you have not already been sentenced, and maybe you haven't even gone through your pre-sentence investigation yet, or you do not have your PSR back, this video is really designed for you. Now, obviously, there's a lot of things going, a lot of moving parts. And one of the aspects, this is just one of the aspects of many that we focus on: personal narrative, character reference letters. Your personal narrative is a letter from you that is going to ultimately be given to the judge. Now, the personal narrative, if it's done right and it's done in time, it's also should be used to give to the probation officer that's going to be conducting your pre-sentence report or your pre-sentence investigation earlier on. So let's talk about this for a minute. If you think, we're going to talk about that, Merrick. Merrick's got a question. He wants to know what's a good amount of letters. We're going to get to that in a minute. Merrick, I promise. So if you think you've already done your letter, I'm going to ask you, what makes a good letter? This is something you got to ask yourself, and you got to be honest with yourself. You know, I'm not here just to sell you a service. As much as I want you to hire me for me to help you with your letters and let our team do what we do best, I get it. Not everybody can afford a prison consultant, no matter what the price is, no matter how affordable we make it. Some people just can't see the benefit, because I don't believe people truly can't afford our services. I believe maybe they don't see the benefit, or they don't really understand the value, because they're kind of lost in so many different areas that they're not able to focus. So let's just assume you can't afford a prison consultant, but yet you've done your letters and you say you have amazing letters. I'm not saying you don't, but it's very, very, very rare that we see letters done the right way in conjunction with the character reference letter. So your personal narrative, if you think you have an outstanding personal narrative, you need to ask yourself why. Where did you come up with the information for your personal narrative? And where are you referencing what should go into a personal narrative? If you're going on Google and you're Googling reference letters and personal narratives and letters to the judge, sorry letters, whatever you're typing in Google to get these form letters back, I can tell you most of those letters are garbage. Not that the letters and the way that they're written and the format and the punctuality, I'm not talking about the grammar of the letter. I'm talking about the direction that they say a good letter should be done in. When we talk about the word insanity, doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting a different result, we typically see people go to court on a regular basis, go to sentencing on a regular basis, and get sentenced to prison time on a regular basis. It's not very common that we see people go to court and get sentenced to probation or a dramatically reduced sentence, unless there was something else crazy going on, like there's extensive cooperation and something that's outside of the norm. But when you look at a structured case in comparison to several other cases in its same type of apples and apples, it's very rare to see somebody getting probation. So when we do see somebody get probation, we really have to say, okay, was this just an oddity where this was just by luck? Or was there a circumstance that made a difference in this person's situation? Actually every client that we've seen receive probation, whether they used us or a separate prison consultant, all of them that have received probation that were not expecting probation, there are some times where the crime is so minimal that the attorney's telling them they're going to get probation, the prosecutor's telling them they're probably going to get probation, or they're not going to oppose probation. But when a prosecutor is opposing probation and your attorney's telling you, don't get your hopes up for probation, your guidelines don't recommend probation. Now, as long as there's no minimum mandatory, okay, if you've got a minimum mandatory of a certain amount of time, then you're not getting probation. But if you do not have a minimum mandatory and your guideline range does not recommend probation and your pre-sentence report does not recommend probation, how are some people getting probation? The style of writing that goes into these letters, the story that's being created about who you are, the explanation of what you did, the accountability of what you did, how it's explained to the judge is just as important as what you did. So you and I could both tell the judge that we did the same exact crime, but how we explain it to the judge can generate completely two opposite outcomes and two opposite responses and reactions from the same judge, just by changing how it typically looks. When you imagine how many personal narratives a judge reads in a month, in a week, in a year. And when you realize that there is almost all of them to a certain extent are cookie cutter or almost identical from a different letter. And you see everybody getting prison time, prison time, prison time, prison time. And then your attorney comes to you and says, okay, here's the form letter you should use. And when you say to your attorney, well, every other person that has used this type of a form or this type of an outline or these type of guidelines have all received prison time. How is this letter going to increase my opportunity, Mr. Attorney? And usually they won't be able to give you a response. Had an interesting call today from he's actually a new client. He just became a client of ours, a gentleman by the first name is Michael. And he told me he was really upset because he's got a high-priced legal team. And he feels like these are things that he should have known more about from the amount of money that he paid to his legal defense. And he's right. He should have known more about this, but he didn't. So he decided to employ us to get the assistance that he's not getting from his attorneys. When I tell you, what's going on, Hunter Moore, Bonnie, George, everybody? When I tell you that these letters absolutely matter, I'm not saying that just a letter in general matters. A bad letter or a letter that's not conducted the right way and not generating the right impact, doesn't have the right amount of oomph into it, going in the right direction, can be almost just as bad as not producing a letter at all. And a lot of times clients don't produce letters. They tell me they got character reference letters, but I'll ask them about their personal narrative. And I'll even get in some circumstances, somebody will go, well, what's a personal narrative? It's like the letter you're writing to the judge. And, oh, I didn't know I was supposed to do that. It's like, Jesus, how have you gotten this far in life? And I know that might sound harsh, but man, this is your life. The person that's watching this video right now, you are the one that is potentially going to be facing federal prison time. Not me, not your attorney, not the prosecutor, not the judge. It's you. You're going to prison. So what you decide to do can have an impact on the outcome. Doesn't mean it's going to, doesn't mean the best letter in the world is going to get you probation. But if you're not willing to put all the effort required in to potentially have that best possible outcome, then you can expect a very common outcome. And a common outcome is prison time, as almost everybody in this room will tell you that's been to prison, including Hunter Moore. What's going on? Hunter. Hunter found me a little bit late in the game. He didn't have the ability to really utilize services. He found me pretty much right before he went to prison. So your personal narrative needs to go over where your frame of mind was when you did your crime. It needs to explain your backstory, your upbringing, your childhood, your relationship with your parents, your relationship with whatever crime you engaged in, but not to a sense as to where you're blaming it on your poor childhood. I don't care how fucked up or shitty your childhood was. I don't care if you were beaten as a kid. I don't care if you were molested as a kid. These things are not a justification for why you're doing what you do today. Could it have played a role? Absolutely. But when you start to use it as the reason why I did this is because I was never taught any better. I was never taught how to be a man, or I was never taught how to be a woman or an adult. The thing you have to remember is from a judge's perspective, and you have to allow yourself to be very objective and look at this from a third party. Look at this through somebody else's eyes. Practice empathy here, and how does this come off to somebody else? What I would think, if you told me, and this is how I think in life now, if you told me you did this because you were abused, you were molested, you were beaten, you were not loved, you weren't hugged enough, your dad was never around, or you never knew who your dad was, or you lived in a rough area and you got into drugs at an early age, my response to that would be, okay, there's a lot of people that have a life just like you had, and worse in some situations, and didn't necessarily grow up to commit crimes, make these mistakes, and go to prison. So how was it they were able to make good choices, but you were not? The problem is if you're not being completely accountable, saying you're accountable and being accountable is two completely different things. We all know most of us are going to take a plea, and usually part of that plea is acceptance. We get a letter of acceptance of responsibility where we get a couple of points knocked off on our PSR. Acceptance of responsibility is not the same thing as demonstrating how you're responsible and how you've taken ownership for what you've done. explaining this into a letter in a very specific way, written in a story, a true story, not a made up fucking bullshit story, a true story explaining how you got to this point in your life, but identifying where your flaws were in life, identifying that you see them for what they were, and you still understand that you do not have it completely under control, because if you did, you wouldn't be in the situation. You can't all of a sudden go, oh, I'm better now because now I'm in trouble. Everybody wants to say, I'll never do it again. Just like when you're a little kid or your kids do something wrong and you go to punish them and they say, please, 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 I'll never do it again. Well, the same thing with the adults. The legal system believes, well, you might need a punishment to believe that. So when you write these letters, not asking for forgiveness in the sense of, please give me probation, please don't send me to prison, please go easy on me. My father's dying of cancer. My mother is elderly, needs me to take care of her. My wife and children I'm the one that provides for them. I did this because I needed to provide and I didn't want our family to lose our house. That's why I went out and committed these crimes. Those aren't reasons. Again, you're just validating why you did what you did. So what we ask you to do, if you're a client of ours, we ask you to dig deep. We give you the resources. We're going to give you a sample. We're going to give you an explanation. We're going to give you direction as to what should go in a good letter. You're going to write your letter and then you're going to submit it to us. And then our team is going to go through the letter and make edits and recommendations, but it's based on your actual story. We're not going to create fluff. We're not going to make things up. We're not going to tell you what to write, but we're going to take your story and mold it so it's giving off the vibe that is necessary to possibly get the reaction that we're looking for, that is giving a judge the understanding that not only are you saying you're sorry, he understands why you're sorry. You've explained how you've identified your thinking errors, what allowed you to get into this position. You're identifying the people and friends that you've hurt along the way, your family, your friends, your children. All of these people have become victims of your crime. So many times somebody will call me up and tell me they're working on their letters and I'll bait them. I'll ask them a question. Well, talk about your victims a little bit. Well, I don't have any victims. It was a victimless crime. No such thing. There's no such thing as a victimless crime. Victims are your friends, your family, the people that care about you, that are watching you go through this because they're right there alongside of you going through this. So having conversation with them, engaging with them and letting them know that you appreciate how they've been supportive, but you're also demonstrating to them how you've taken accountability, letting them know that you're not blaming other people. So now when they go to write character reference letters, they're not just writing these letters that are fluff that, well, you know, Mike was a good guy and Mike goes to church every day. Mike helps out the community. Every year, Mike rents a U-Haul truck and shows up with 5,000 turkeys and hands out turkeys to all the kids in the neighborhood and gives toys away. And he's always the first one when somebody needs something. Mike's always the first one to go out and help them. That is just a bunch of bullshit. We delete that. We don't want to see that in a letter. So most of you, when you tell me, oh, I've got amazing letters, these are the type of letters that we're seeing. Those are not amazing letters. Those are very average, common letters. You would think those would be good letters. But the judge has read that exact letter 10 million times. It does not invoke any type of response that is different than the other 50 million times that the judge has read that same letter. So again, we give you a sample, direction, narrative on what we want to see in a character reference letter. We'll get on the phone and speak with your friends and family and explaining to them not what to write, but things to stay away from, things that look very typical in another letter. Don't write what's easy. Just like anything in life, if you want a good personal narrative, you got to dig down, you got to dig deep, you got to do things that are uncomfortable. You got to talk about yourself, exposing yourself in these letters, becoming vulnerable. Your friends and family that are writing letters on your behalf need to be able to explain in these letters how your poor decisions have affected them, how your poor decisions are now affecting your children. They might be suffering in school. They may not be sleeping at night. They may be fighting with other children. You need to pull this out of your children, especially if they're old enough to write a character reference letter. If your kids are older than 14 years old, they could be a good candidate to write a letter because it can be real. We're not saying use your kids because it's going to look great. You're sad little kid that wants to write a letter about poor daddy or poor mommy going to prison. No. We got a letter from a teenager going, my dad has completely embarrassed me. I go to school and I'm the kid that everyone knows that their father is going to prison. Everyone's asked me, what did your dad do? Your dad's going to prison, almost like you're getting teased. How this is affecting your child. And if you think it's not affecting your child, you're fucking delusional and you're living in some other fairyland right now. And if you're not willing to come down to reality and accept those facts that you are causing anguish and you are screwing up your child by going to prison, and you're not willing to realize and believe that because your kid doesn't want to hurt your feelings and it doesn't know, he or she doesn't know how to bring that to your attention, I'm probably not the prison consultant for you, because I'm not going to go round and round with you. If you can't see how the simple act of going to prison isn't going to possibly mentally disturb your child and your family, you are still delusional. You are still in denial. So when you're ready to wake up, we can then work with you and we can help you with these things. But we can't if you think everything's fine. Everything's not fine. I can tell you firsthand experience. We're going to get back into these letters. Just let me tell you a little situation about my own situation, my own life. I've been out of prison now since 2015. I got in trouble in 2011. I went to prison in 2014. Thanks to good time RDAP halfway house, I only served 13 months, got out in the end of 2015. While I was in prison, communicated with my children, emailed with my children, called my children. Before I went to prison, told my children what was going on. Explained to them I'm probably going to go to prison and for longer than what I thought, but told them I think I'm going to prison. Here's what happened. Told them everything. In prison, kept communication with them. Out of prison, kept communication with them. Thought everything was fine. Thought, key word, thought everything was fine. Well, it's not. My actions have completely caused a lot of grief in my daughter's life. More than I even want to talk about, because it kills me to hear her tell me on the phone that she still is having massive problems with me walking out on her life. That's what you're doing. You're walking out on your child's life. So when I have to hear my daughter tell me that my choices and actions are affecting her to this day, to where now she needs to see a counselor and she needs therapy because I wasn't there and I wasn't able to be there when she needed me the most at those ages. My daughter's going to turn 18. And just now is the true anger and sadness coming out of her on what I did. And I can't take it back. I can't undo it. I can say I'm sorry a million times until I'm blue in the face. But there's no easy fix. So I wasn't prepared for this. I was not prepared to hear my daughter tell me that. It kind of came out of left field. And maybe it didn't come out of left field. Maybe I was just in fairyland, not believing, thinking everything was fine, and I came out and patched everything up, but I didn't. I'm still battling with the consequences of my actions and what brought me to go to federal prison due to poor choices, not thinking about consequences, not caring about others. And now I have to deal with my daughter, my baby, telling me that she doesn't know if she can deal with me right now because the things that I've done have caused so much conflict. I can't get mad at her for that. I can't make it go away if I want to. I have to let her process, and it's killing me. You know, when they were little and I used to hold my daughters in my hands, I used to tell them, I'll never do anything to hurt you. I'll never put you in a bad situation. And now, where I am now, I've created so much pain and so much hurt that it's nothing I can do about it except work on it and try to make progress and try to let her do what she needs to do at her own pace. I know my kids love me, but I know that I've caused a lot of problems for them by my choices. Same thing for anybody that cared about me. Shelly, even my ex-wife. This has put my ex-wife through torture because while I was away, she had to step in and do all of the additional things. And while my children were acting out and doing stupid things, there was nobody else there to help her. She was forced to handle this by herself. So don't think for a minute, just because your kids are dealing with it okay right now, that there's no issues and that there's never going to be a problem about this. This is the time to talk to your kids about this in your family. So, not to get too much off on that, if I had taken more responsibility early on and talked to my kids really about how is this affecting you, be honest. Write it in a letter if you want. wanting to see them write this stuff down is the type of stuff that we need to hear, that the judge needs to hear. This is what's going to show a judge that your family and friends are holding you accountable by explaining the pain and the anxiety that you've put them through. This is the type of passion we want to see when we read these letters. I don't want to read a letter and go, ugh, and throw it on the ground. I want to read a letter and feel my gut being wrenched from this letter, going, oh my God, this person's friend, mother, daughter, child, whatever, just ripped this person a new one because of how much hurt they put them through. In the same sentence, explaining that I still want to be a character reference to my father or my mother because of the way they've taken responsibility. There's nothing that could excuse what my parent has done or the pain that they've caused me. They can't take it back. They can't ever fix it. But they are trying to move forward from it, showing me by example that just because you make a mistake doesn't mean you can't get back up and still move on and go forward. When these letters are just fluffy, just saying, I love my dad and he didn't mean to do what he did. I'm sure he's sorry. It doesn't mean anything. It means a bunch of garbage. And if that's the stuff you're putting in your letters, you're not paying attention to what we talked about in these videos. What's going on, Sarah? Sarah got a wristband. So how many character reference letters should you have? That is a debatable question depending on who you're talking to. How many letters do I think you should have? Character reference letters, letters from friends and family. I'm a believer on 3 strong character reference letters plus your personal narrative carries strong impact. You have to imagine you've got a judge reading all of these letters. At least the judges say they read the letters, right? So if a good judge is reading the letters and you've got 30 letters sent into a judge and only 2 or 3 of them are any good and the other 20, 25 are horrible letters, the judge is not going to remember every letter he read or she read. The judge is probably going to remember the last couple letters, and that's going to be what sticks out in his or her mind, unless they're taking serious notes on every letter. So if you have 3 to 4 substantial quality letters that are really explaining how this person is holding you accountable, how they've identified what they know about your crime, how they know your character, why they're surprised that you did this, how this has truly affected them, what progress they've seen you make since the point of time you got in trouble. And what I mean by progress, they need to explain it. He's done so much better since he's got in trouble. He's turned his life around since he got in trouble. That is a very blank. What does that mean? Describe. What does that mean? Think about when you're reading a book. When you're reading a good story, they don't just give you a basic outline of a narrative. They go into the detail. That's why books are, pages and pages, because it's giving you detail. It's giving you meat and potatoes to what the adjective means. If someone's telling you, if your friends or family want to say the progress that you've made, what is that progress? What is it? Identify it. What have they done? They've taken responsibility. They're going to daily meetings. They've come to me and sat down with me on numerous occasions and told me the crime that they did, there's no excuse for it and there's nothing they can do to take it back. And they constantly remind me of, I know what I did wrong and I have nobody else to blame. I wasn't thinking about anybody else. I was being selfish. I was focused on making more money, or I was focused on not really caring about how this affected other people. If somebody's not explaining why they're writing a letter, but they're writing a letter and maybe they don't know why they're writing it. Maybe you asked them to write a character reference letter and they were like, yeah, sure. 10 minutes before it was due, they sat down and threw 2 paragraphs together and shot it off. That's not the person you want writing your character reference letter. You need to interview the person that's going to write your character reference letter and say, hey, look, if you're writing this character reference letter for me, I need to know that you're going to put effort into this and that you're willing to receive feedback and maybe making some changes and maybe rewriting it. If you can't find somebody, if somebody goes, I don't really have time to do that, then you need to get that person out of your mind that they're going to write your letter and find somebody different, because whoever's doing this needs to take it very serious. Again, you, the one watching this video right now that's thinking about this, you might be the one that's going to federal prison. Not them, not me, not anybody else. So you're going to get what you put into this. The people that we see with positive results and positive outcomes, they tend to understand this concept and take it very, very serious. So some of the other things. What's going on, Will? Will's one of our clients. Will Power, if you see him in the room. Will is a client, and Will tell you firsthand, look, we're just going to call it out like it is. We live in a fucked up time where race is everywhere. Race, I mean, they've even turned the movie Black Panther into like a race thing. This is, and it's media. The movie, from what I've seen, looks like an amazing movie, but there's all this emphasis on it, on, you know, the black superhero. It's like, why do you have to go out and, it's obvious it's a black superhero. We can all see that. But the fact that media has got to put a spin on this. When Will did his letters, and we read Will's letters, his wife went into the whole black thing and said, well, the black man doesn't really get a chance and held down and it's not fair. As true as that may be, you have to understand that you can't put that into a letter because you don't know how it's going to be perceived. If you're not talking to a common audience, if you're not talking to somebody that sees your point of view, and they might see it differently, but you're putting in your viewpoint, you're putting in your debatable point into a letter without knowing somebody else's thought process, you could be shooting yourself right in the head without even knowing it. So when we read Will's letters, it was like, Will, as much as this might be true, if you submit this as is, the risk you are facing is completely pissing off a judge who's old as dirt as it is, that may not see things at all the way your wife is seeing it, and feel like you're using that as an excuse. And getting to know Will, I know that's not true. I have a great relationship with Will. He actually invited me to his wedding, which I didn't tell you this, Will, but the day that you're having your wedding is the same day that I self-surrendered to prison. So it was kind of interesting. I think you said September 23rd of this year. And she's Puerto Rican, white, speaking like that. And Dan Shelley, and right. So, and it's not that we agree or disagree. Our job is not to tell you you're right or wrong. Our job is to try to get you to see things objectively and realize the audience and the target audience that is going to be potentially reading your letters has to be able to connect and understand what it is you're trying to say. So you can't be super one-sided expecting to get a result. You go into a court system when you're taking a plea, you're admitting guilt, and then your letter says it's not fair. It's like, well, what are you taking a plea for? Why are you really saying you're not guilty? Should I take this plea off the table and have you go to trial? These are some of the things that people can risk with writing certain statements in a letter, especially if you're writing it out of anger. And a lot of these letters, look, people are emotional. I know Will's wife was emotional when she's writing these letters. It's an emotional moment to where, because maybe it's not fair, but we were forced to take a plea at some point because the punishment for not taking a plea can be so much worse than the actual plea. Will was not supposed to get probation. His attorney told him, you can't get probation. You took a plea agreeing to prison time. It's not going to happen. Prosecutor said probation's not on the table. Will is sitting here. Will's not out of prison. Will didn't go to prison. Will got probation. And the judge told him it's because of your letters and what you've done with your time. We got Will engaged in community service programs and outreach and the mentoring. This stuff makes a massive difference. Will's not a spokesperson for federal prison time or RDAP Dan. He's here because he saw it work. And I'm sure there was a part of Will that he was hoping this was going to work, but there was definitely a part of him that was like, man, this might all be for nothing. Because I would think the same thing, because it sounds crazy. It sounds like, man, can a letter really make a difference? And it sure as hell can. Merrick, I'm going to assume the question. Merrick's asking me if clients ever go against our advice. They do. They usually don't tell us. Sometimes we'll see the letters when we go into PACER. We can see some of the letters that were submitted on the sentencing memorandum sometimes, and we'll look at the letters and the attorneys butchered them completely. A lot of attorneys will say, no, we can't submit. Here's the thing. Attorneys always want to ride on the side of caution. They don't want to do anything out of the norm, anything that's different from what they're used to doing, because it's uncharted territory to them. They're like, whoa, we've never seen a letter submitted like this before. This could really, we don't want to take the blame if this doesn't work out. We don't want to piss off the judge. You can't say that. And we get attorneys that create a lot of flack and a lot of bumping of heads. And I understand that. And we tell the client, ultimately, look, it's up to you. You're going to submit what you want to submit. You hired us to do a job. You've seen clients like Will, like the interview with Kim that we just had. We've got several people on here that have been interviewed that have received probation. So when I got a client telling me, well, my attorney doesn't want to do it, I'm like, look, I'm not going to sit here and twist your arm to tell you what your attorney's telling you is wrong. That's not my job. You hired me to do something specific. You've seen the proof. You've seen the people come on this show that it's worked for. What you're trying to do and what your attorney's telling you to do is what every other sheep has walked off the edge of the cliff doing. Just aimlessly walking off the edge of the cliff. You're throwing way too much hope and effort into, now all of a sudden your attorney wants to tell you, no, the letter's no good. But where was he helping you prepare this letter months ago when it mattered? Now that you've got your letter, he wants to tell you, oh no, this isn't a good letter. A little late, Mr. Attorney. So you gotta be able to read between the lines, and you got to realize that this isn't most attorneys' point of expertise. So I appreciate everything Will's saying, because, you know, we really worked hard with Will. And Will had some bad days. There was days Will called me up and he's just like, man, I don't know about this. I don't know. Not about what we were doing, but just about his state of mind. And there was never a moment where I was like, yeah, well, go ahead and, you know, I get it. It's not fair. No. Will, stop what you're doing, man. Get your mind out of this thought process right now. This funk that you're allowing yourself to sink down into is just feeding the anger that you're looking to be mad about. I mean, at the end of the day, Will fucked up. He made a mistake. He did some dumb stuff. Doesn't mean he necessarily deserved to go to prison for it, but he did, to an extent, what they said he did. They spun it for sure, but that's what the system does, is it spins things into a different spotlight. But he put himself in that spot, so that's what we had to keep reminding him. Like, Will, as unfair as it is, nobody put you in that spot. Nobody made up those passes and was doing all that stuff with the transit system. You were engaged in that to make a couple of extra bucks. Just weren't focused enough on the consequences. Now it's time to undo what you did, and we're not going to get there by being pissed off and angry. That's not going. Take that pissed off and anger and take that same amount of energy it's taken to be mad and put that into doing what you did. Community service, working on your letters, contacting your friends and family, letting them know what you need from these letters. Those are the things that made the difference. So you've got your letters. You've got your pre-sentence report. That's another huge aspect of what people don't really prepare for enough. We had a guy call us. He's like, oh, my pre-sentence report is, it was last Friday. And he called us like Monday. I said, great. What do you know about the pre-sentence report? What do you know about the investigation? He goes, well, nothing. My attorney told me we're going to go down there and we're going to talk to him for about 15 or 20 minutes. And I said, well, what is the pre-sentence investigation for? Why do you have to do this? Well, my attorney told me I have to do it. But why? What's the point? What's the purpose? Did you ask him? Well, no, I just thought it was something I had to do. Well, it is something you have to do, but why do you have to do it? And when you break it down to somebody what it is, this is what's going to determine whether or not you might not be able to qualify for RDAP. This is going to be the information that they give to the judge to make a recommendation as to what type of sentence should be imposed. How prepared for this point are you? None. Nada. They don't even know what it means. Personal narrative, the letter that you're working on, that letter should be done before you go to that pre-sentence investigation. And that letter should be presented to the probation officer that's going to do that pre-sentence report. That probation officer is going to be taking notes based on what you tell them. Their notes typically is the only information they have now to take the next couple of weeks to prepare your pre-sentence investigation. Are those quick notes that they took down? Just imagine with a well-written, well-executed personal narrative that's done the right way, showing full accountability, explanation of responsibility, showing what you did. Now you're giving this to the probation officer along with the little notes that he took. Now he's got all this additional rooted information to create a powerful pre-sentence report that he's going to be presenting to the judge and asking for a recommendation as to what type of sentence you potentially might get. Don't you think if you prepare the probation officer that much better, that the report potentially could also be that much better? Again, these are some of the things that we're going to guide you in the direction that we think will make a difference. Making sure you understand how you possibly can qualify for the residential drug addiction program without lying, without making stuff up. How important it is to get involved and engage in your community during all of this pretrial probation time. What type of stuff you're doing with your day-to-day. Are you building any type of mentor network? And how are you gauging this? How is it being held accountable? The meetings you're supposed to be going to, AA or NA or whatever it is that you're, anger management, whatever it is that you, not that you're told to do from the court system, but things that you are going to do because you are trying to stand out from every other person that went in front of that judge recently. What have you done differently? Well, Your Honor, Jim has voluntarily engaged in over 200 meetings. He has over 1,000 hours of community service logged. And the type of community service is just important as the community service itself. He wasn't just, holding the door at his church. Or he wasn't just picking up garbage on the street. He's done things like gone to local schools. He's been talking to children about how his poor decisions and poor choices are ultimately leading him to this point standing in front of you today where he possibly is going to federal prison. What this is ultimately doing is it's killing two birds with one stone, right? It's showing that you're doing community service, and it's showing that you're possibly making a change in potential youth of people that are going to be in a situation similar to yours in the future. And because of your story, your cautionary tale of how somebody can easily slip and make a mistake and be in direct line of fire of the government, because of your story sharing with them, when they are faced with that moment in their life where they can go left, which is not the best choice, or they can go right, even if it means maybe they're not getting something, but they're not going to be facing potential charges for it. Your story might be in the back of their head. These are things that we like to see you do. We're not like your typical prison consultant. We're much more of a coach than just a consultant. Yes, we want to see amazing letters, but yes, we want to see you change your life. We want to see you put in the work. We want to see you not dwell on negativity. We want to see you take every day and make it the best day you can. We want to see how you're explaining to your family. Tina Cozart, client of ours, she was on here last week. She's self-surrendering tomorrow. You know what she's doing today? She's not dwelling on negativity. She's got everything ready. She's got everything she needs for prison. She's got all of her bank accounts taken care of. She's got her list of who she's going to be contacting in prison. She knows what she can bring. She knows what she can't bring. She's got all that stuff taken care of because she's been preparing for quite a while. Prepared for RDAP, prepared for all of that. She's going to prison tomorrow. She's not dwelling. She's out hiking today. They're out in the mountains hiking, enjoying the fresh air, taking in the scenery, living in the moment, realizing that this isn't something she's going to be able to do for all because she starts her sentence tomorrow. Those of you have so much time left to make a difference, to make a change. Don't waste it with being sad and frumpy and this isn't fair and why me? There's other people out there that did way worse than me. I didn't murder anybody. I didn't sell a bunch of drugs to kids. I didn't molest anybody. I'm not a child rapist. I shouldn't go to prison. Get out of that fucking victim mode and start getting productive. We can help you do this. All you got to do is pick up your phone. So that's about all we got today. I'm not going to go on too long about it. Let me make sure I covered all my topics here. It's pretty much all I wanted to talk about because, the calls that we've been getting from people lately, like I said, it's a lot of you that are watching these videos. And when someone says, I watched all your videos, and then they call me and they don't seem like they've taken it very serious, and they send over a couple of the letters for us to review. It's like, have you really watched the videos? It's like the movie White Man Can't Jump. Yeah, you can hear Jimmy, but are you really listening to Jimmy? Like, are you listening to what I'm saying? Just hearing me because this is passing time isn't doing you any good. If you're not comprehending and it's not sinking in yet, you need to pick up the phone and have a phone conversation with me. Also, if you haven't done so, head over to our website, rdapdan.com and click on the members area. It's free to become a member. It doesn't cost you a dime, and it does give you some resources, some useful tools. You can get access to the prison calculator on there that can help you with designation. But more importantly, it will put you on our list, so when we start sending out information that can help you, you'll be on a list for that. If you haven't already subscribed to our channel, please hit the subscribe button. Also, if you haven't done so, text the word YouTube to 76626. That will put you on a notification list that lets you know prior to us going live. We usually send it out 15 to 30 minutes before we go live on these videos, so you can get an update on that. Coming in, I would like to say the end of March, beginning of April, we're going to be releasing our podcast, which is going to be a lot of fun. We're going to do a little bit of it's not going to be exactly like this show. It's going to be a little bit more, I would say, on entertainment side with valuable content, but it's going to give you guys something else to look forward to. If you're just looking to, like, you know, hear some crazy stuff about prison, we are going to have a prison podcast that's going to be launching the end of March, beginning of April. And I will have a co-host doing that with me. So I will be bringing you more information about that. Hey, Dan. Hey, Dan, would like to donate also. Appreciate that, Will. There's a link. Anybody that wants to donate, again, donations don't go to me. I mean, they do go to me, but they're not for us. Donations do not pay Jenny's salary. Jenny's like, really? Donations go to help those that are in prison that are less fortunate and don't have. But Jenny, if you could post that, you should see a donate to our channel link in there. So it's real easy. I got to get that put on the website too, because a lot of people, we receive a lot of donations every month. And I think it's a lot of times they come anonymously. Like, we do not even know who sent it, which I like to be able to say thanks when we see donations come in. We just got a donation, actually. Let's give somebody a shout out here. See if I have it on the phone. Somebody did send a donation, and I wanted to give them a thank you. Let's see here. Here it is. It was from Tanya Durabingi. I probably just butchered your name. But Tanya Durabingi gave us a nice donation, $5. So way to go, Tanya. And there you go. Let's make sure I don't have any of her personal information on there. So there's a donation from, I don't know if you guys can see that or not. So, you know, a $5 donation, guys, those little $3, $4, $5 donations, they add up. They really do add up. And at the end of the month, when we go to help people that are less fortunate, that need certain things, whether it be, you know, we tell you guys about it all the time, whether it be hygiene or, you know, warmer clothes or soups, whatever they want to use the money for the commissary, we put this money on their books. And we know that it makes a difference. It brightens their day. It reduces some of their anxiety while being in prison. So it makes a big change. Jenny is fast. Again, guys, you can donate to help. See, Jenny's awesome. She's got it right on there. So yeah, guys, it's simple. If you want to make donations, it's great. That goes to help other people. It's not, look, the RDAP Dan wristbands are completely free. Also, if you click on the members area, you can get your RDAP Dan wristband, and we'll fill out the form. We'll send you one. I don't know. They're kind of small. So if you've got like a wrist bigger than mine, they don't fit too well, but we've got blue, hot pink, and white. I'm wearing the blue one lately. I'll probably start wearing the pink one just to show you guys, but they're completely free. If you want to send a donation for them, they're great. The only time they're not going to be free is if you live out of the country. We should have put a disclaimer on there. We've had some people out of the UK and Canada getting them, and they cost a couple dollars just to mail. Here in the United States, it's basically one stamp, and we can mail them out. So I don't mind footing the bill. But anyway, that's all we got. I appreciate you guys. I will be back Wednesday. Oh, Tina, self-surrendering tomorrow. She told me she's going to make a video. I don't know if she's going to make it while she's on her way to self-surrendering, like on her journey down there tomorrow. But she told me she's going to record a little video of her getting ready to self-surrender, and she's going to send it to me to share with you guys. So I think that's pretty cool. If any of you are getting ready to self-surrender and you want to tell your story and you want to come on and share what the journey's been like for you, please reach out to myself or Jenny. Jenny's email is jenny@rdapdan.com. My email, rdapdan@gmail.com. And we would love to hear from you. We'd love to share your story. Keep doing what you're doing, guys. Keep subscribing to this channel. Keep sharing. Eventually, this channel is going to hit a point to where it just doesn't slow down. And it's because of all of you. I can't thank you guys enough. I'm RDAP Dan, Federal Prison Time. As always, guys, don't forget, it's people helping people. Community is method. One day at a time. I will see you guys on Wednesday. I love every single one of you. You guys rock. So keep it real. All right, guys, have a great evening. Go out and do something nice for somebody.